crisis management team with corrections, juvenile and adult. Became even more familiar with a lot of the problems in the prison systems with gangs and illegal aliens, because we had a lot of them. I spent a couple of years down in Central America learning Spanish. Also a certified therapist. A lot of people found that kind of a contradiction in terms, being basically a cop and also being a therapist.
Yeah.
I like to tell people that when I bust people, I like to make them feel good about the whole process.
Yeah.
So, on that note, when I retired in 09, a few years ago, I became a member of various border groups. First with the Arizona Civil Sentinels, then the Arizona Border Defenders. I've been an oath keeper all my life because I believe in the Constitution, and that the oath we took, both for those of us who went through the military, which is the same for law enforcement. I am a firm believer that it doesn't go away just because we quit being professionally a cop or a veteran or whatever, okay? You take that oath, it stays with you your whole life. Obviously, while I'm here for a purpose, Stuart Rhodes, the founder of Oath Keepers, has asked me to work with y'all, help you become a little more knowledgeable, skilled in how to preserve a crime scene that apparently y'all have been encountering lately. From the tons, myriad of information that's coming across the wires. And so what we want to do is give you some skills that, number one, not only preserves, maintains evidence that might be found, but as well as to hold those entities, i.e. law enforcement, that you might be turning over that evidence. And I understand that y'all have a lot of that stuff that you picked up, which when I hear that, it's kind of like it's like, oh no, because once you touch any kind of evidence in any kind of crime scene, it is contaminated, has no value in the eyes of law enforcement, and that means if it ever gets to court or whatever. So we're going to teach you how to get into that situation, deal with that situation legally, effectively, and hopefully build some credibility with other outside sources, i.e. the media, i.e. law enforcement, i.e. the public. And when the public and these other entities...
Does anybody have a Jeep up front?
Yeah.
Just roll down the road and just
Gotta set that brake. Put a rock under the tire. Okay, so, on that note, we will get into the fundamentals of what to do when you come upon a crime scene. Well, first of all, what is a crime scene? Anybody have any ideas?
But there's a victim.
Excuse me?
There has to be a victim.
Okay.
The
Anybody
scene
else?
where a crime was committed.
Okay. How do you know if a crime has been committed?
Observation.
Okay, very good one. Observation. When you observe something, what indicates to you that that might be a crime scene?
Presence of blood.
Peculiarities.
Paraphernalia.
Just different stuff that's been moved and
Okay.
A weapon.
Weapon. Okay. All very good responses. Anything that you perceive and or suspect as being involved in criminal or illicit behavior becomes a crime scene. Okay? So, what do you do when you come upon that? Well, those are the fundamentals that we're going to be discussing. And what I've got here is, I'll get these passed out. And these are so you can fold up and keep in your wallet, because as rookies, which you will be,
Hey
Either
guys,
there's,
somebody's white Jeep rolled out into the street. Don't know.
Yeah, he went over.
Just take care of it.
They're taking care of it.
I'm going to get a few more. Oh, got it. I'm not sure. You keep these folded up in your wallets, in your possession at all times. Everybody got one? Boy, I call that just right. That's exactly how many copies I made. Okay. Note, we're offering this advice, this instruction, to all groups working on the ground in Tucson, so that they may improve their ability to properly secure evidence without contaminating it. Please document what you can see with photo, video, and careful notes to what degree you can, consistent with not disturbing the evidence. The following is a list of steps to follow, tailored a little bit for the predicament, the kind of environment you all are working in. And I want to make one thing real clear. Even though these past issues, you may not have dealt that effective with evidence, you got to be given credit for doing what you're doing. I mean, no other group's getting out like you guys and hitting these deserts and mountains like y'all are doing. So, what we're going to do with this stuff right here is help make you more effective. Okay, so number one. Who wants to read it for me? Go ahead.
If and when a team member comes upon what might be evidence of criminal or other related activity, they are to freeze and not contaminate the surrounding area, nor touch the possible evidence. 2. Notify.
Okay, hold it right there. We're going to process this.
All right.
Okay, anybody have any questions as to what that means? Okay? Bottom line is, you stop. You look. You think. You process. You make sure no one else ventures into the area. You basically, you see how on TV the cops, they'll take their tape and surround a crime scene. You need to do that, not necessarily tape, because some of the areas you're looking in is massive, okay? You're talking an acre or two. So, but what you want to do is when you think you have suspected evidence, you freeze everything. Don't let anybody in the area, because tracks, anything that you discard, anything that you might touch or whatever becomes contaminated. And if you decide that this is worthy of a phone call to 911, or if you have a direct contact number with law enforcement, you make that call. And when they arrive, that's the first thing you will do, is you will let those officers, the responding officers, know that this area has been secured. You have not allowed anybody to venture into the area, period. Law enforcement will appreciate that tremendously, okay? Who wants to read number 2?
Notify team leader or teammate and approach the evidence carefully, watching for other evidence, i.e. articles, tracks, etc.
Okay. And what you want to do here, and there's various tricks of the trade, is you see something, okay? Let's take the case of the skull you all found. You see see the skull. You look at it, you say, what the heck is this? You move in and get a closer look. And now you start to register. It looks like a skull. Immediately freeze everybody. Okay? You get a closer look, determine what it is, and then you back out. If there's any need to do photographs or whatever, then you want to make sure only one person is venturing in close to that article. Okay, because the tracks will become significant and identifiable by law enforcement if it comes to that. You don't want 10 pairs of tracks running all around. Alright? Because it's going to make your job 10 times harder. Alright, number 3. Who wants to read that one?
Once ascertained that the evidence is legitimate, the immediate area needs to be cordoned off, keeping others away from the site.
Any questions?
How large of a cordon per article?
That's a good question. In your situation, I would not, if you've come in from one direction, I would not allow any further ingress into the area at that point. In other words, you don't want to be, now if we were doing search and seizure, then you might want to start, and this is what law enforcement will do, they'll do grid searches or diametrical searches, but in reality, with what you all are dealing with, and you think you've got reliable intel, and if you've got law enforcement responding, you do not want to take the chance of contaminating any of the other area that's back behind you, or in front of you, excuse me. You've already come in from one direction, that's contaminated, technically. But law enforcement can distinguish with that. What you don't want to do is go and contaminate the rest of that periphery, okay? So you just don't allow any more searching or anything. If, in fact, you know law enforcement is going to respond. Okay? If they're not responding, for whatever reason, and they better, and we'll talk about that in a second, okay, then that's another story. Then you may have to take things more into your own hands and continue searching. But in most cases, when you believe you have legitimate evidence of a criminal action, you will get a response. Sometimes it could be really slow. We all know that. All right, number 4. Further searching should cease to prevent further contamination. I just discussed that. Okay, number 5. Who wants to read that one?
Document the following: team member who discovered the suspicious evidence and phone number, date, time, GPS coordinates, description of the evidence, the names of other team members present. Photograph any evidence. Law enforcement will want a copy.
Anybody have any questions about that one?
How do we get the, like if we're using a camera, how do we get the photographs to them?
The photographs that you take are for you.
Right.
Law enforcement will take their own
Okay.
photographs. Don't worry about them. They will handle their stuff. What you want to do is have proof, evidence of what you've discovered. You want to log in, and we're going to talk about number 6 at the same time, which is to get the names of all responding officers, who the first officer is, the time he arrives, he or she arrives, get their badge number. If you feel like you want more proof that you've turned this thing over properly, and then you back out of the area, law enforcement will take over. Okay? date and time of everything, everybody that's there working with you, they need to be documented. Okay? Again, this is for your own records. If law enforcement later on needs that information, you need to give it to them. Okay? If you go to court, if it ends up there, you're going to be asked for that information. You all use GPSs?
Yes.
It was available on our phone.
Good.
Question. So it's been recommended to me by another one of our Alpha team members that after something like when we found the skull, or after we go out on patrols or tunnels, whatever, if it has a significance, to write it all down while it's still fresh in your mind once you get away from the situation. So,
What are you asking? I mean, I'm not
so
sure.
do you think that's a good idea to write like what your thoughts down and how you came across the situation?
What you're talking about is doing what they call or classify as an incident report. Maybe if you feel it would help you for further processing to document, it would only need to be the primary person who found, located the actual evidence. And you can be real brief, real succinct. That's a whole other issue, learning how to do the proper kind of incident report. It's called Incident Report Writing 101. And there's certain ways to do an incident report. Basically what you're doing is you're being very brief, curt, to the point, without expressing feelings. Okay, it has to be very objective. Again, that's a separate class. And it's you got to get into some detail on learning how to do a proper incident report. If you think that it would help you, then one person can be assigned as a secretary or a documenter and start recording what you were doing at the time you discovered what had been happening, your purpose, etc. Excuse me, that can be done if you feel more comfortable having something documented along those lines. Okay? So, but again, like I said, proper incident report writing is another deal. With your situation, who and what you all are doing, just the notes I was talking, the documentation, dates, times, etc. that are listed here is really all you need.
I have another question.
Okay?
Okay, so for example, with the camp that we found over on I-19 in Valencia, I feel that if we would not have dug more, that the cops would not have found like the notebook or the knife. But with what we're given here, it says leave it to the cops. You know, just secure the scene, hand it over to the cops. But you know, some of our digging has led to find what I feel is more evidence that they would have not found otherwise.
It's a good observation. I mean, and you could be right. You could be right on. By the way, there was a knife?
Yes.
Did you get a photograph of that?
Yes, it was on live video, and the lady who recovered it handed it over to TPD.
Isn't that interesting?
And right when we found the knife was when they came in and started arresting our volunteers for parking on the public road.
Do you know which officer took control of possession of that knife?
It would be Captain Strader, supposed to be handling everything as it relates to this case. So that's as much as I know. But they asked us to transport it to TPD, which we did. And TPD left with a bag of evidence the night we made the agreement to get the cadaver dog out.
So we can assume that this report from Craig Sawyer that there was no knife found was either incorrect or lying?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Pretty much.
Okay.
One or the other.
Interesting. Okay. Let's move on.
The question remains unanswered.
Yeah.
Excuse me?
Your
My question,
Oh.
it doesn't really remain answered. So what do we do in that kind of situation? Because if we didn't dig, they wouldn't have gotten that what we got.
There's a point you get to that if you pursue any further on your own, it becomes irrelevant. You all know what you find. And that's important. There's no doubt about it. And I'm not going to criticize you all for how you handled that underground bunker thing. For what you were doing and how you handled, I'm not criticizing it. I'm stating fact that there's certain elements that, with the law and how you preserve and maintain evidence that will or will not be deemed as legitimate. Okay? So in the future, what I would recommend is if you come into a situation where you then have evidence of a crime scene, of criminal activity, I mean, you can still get a lot done prior to declaring it a crime scene. Does that make sense? In other words, we're talking about personal judgment. If you're in a situation that you see what you suspect, but you're not real sure, well, you think, well, okay, let's keep kind of looking. What I would do, and law enforcement will kind of frown at this, what I would do personally is I would throw everybody out of the area except maybe me and one other person to control what's happening and very slowly, methodically look through stuff. Trying not to touch, trying not to contaminate a lot of the area. You see where I'm going with this? You have to use some judgment on what you're doing. In the case of the underground bunker, I mean, it took some searching for you to find that room, that septic thing, okay? And the knife, right?
Well, it also took some searching to find the schematics for the bunker and everything, because it was tossed aside in suitcases.
All those blueprints and everything like that, with like we would never have found that, but no
Right.
one secured the scene. So the question the really team has is, in the event that law enforcement refuses to come out and secure a scene like they did at the CMEX property, in the event we're left hanging out there, it's, you know how hot it is out where we are. If we're left hanging out there for days and days just trying to watch a scene, at what point can we just say we're gonna process it ourselves and get the intelligence like we did with this last one and see where it leads us?
What I would do in the future is call Ghostbusters. Who are the Ghostbusters? Call someone who has experience in dealing with crime scene investigation. And I'm sure if you think real hard, you could probably come up with some names.
Uh-huh.
That's all I'm going to say.
All right.
Okay?
So basically, just don't continue ourselves.
Yeah, if you think you have a situation that warrants contacting outside help, that's what you need to do.
We'll set that in our SOPs. And this way, in the event we have an overwatch coming to help process everything.
Okay. Is it still contaminated when you have gloves on?
Yeah.
You got
Gloves only minimize your prints going on something. And also maybe from contacting some kind of disease that we haven't heard of. But no, the glove, you can't touch anything. You can't move things, you can't whatever. And so, kind of like what I'm telling the rest of the group, if you suspect you got something, you think it needs to be more thoroughly searched. I mean, in the case of the skull, it's pretty obvious. I mean, you look, you see you got a skull. Boom, case closed, more or less. Okay? With the bunker, whole different scenario. And a different response is needed. So what you want to try and do is get as much outside support in those situations as possible. Okay? Alright, move along. Number 7, maintain area security, wait for law enforcement. We all know what that is. Hopefully they show up within a day or two. Okay, once law enforcement arrives, warrant number 8, get the agency officer's name and badge number, time of arrival, and over the scene. Number 9, remain until lead officer advises to leave the scene for additional questions and log in other units, officers arriving. This is an accountability issue. The more names of the law enforcement entities that are responding gives you more ability to control and hold people accountable. And this is kind of what you all need to be looking at. And I know it's a big concern of you all, holding law enforcement accountable. Okay? Anybody have a problem with that? Any questions?
Yeah, how are you supposed to do that? You know,
When you have photographs, when you have of the evidence, of the scene, when you have documentation with those officers' names, times, dates, how you handle this, now you have accountability, because when you start to follow up, assuming that you do, and you probably will, you'll know who exactly to go to. If you can't get a hold of that officer, you go to his supervisor. And when they know that you've got names, badge numbers, photographs, etc., they know they've got to do their jobs. I'm not saying cops are bad, but there are lazy cops and there are hard-working and honest cops. It's just like the regular population, okay? We like to think our policemen are a little above that, and they are as a rule. But they're still lazy cops. And you want to make sure you've got everything you need. Just them knowing that you know your shit and what you're doing puts added emphasis on the police to do their jobs like it's supposed to be done. Okay? You don't want to make a big deal out of it, because that'll piss off a cop. When someone tells you, I got your number, I got your bet, I want your bet, don't do that. You want to be polite, just do the job. Just get the information you need. Let them know you got that information, but you're being tactful and respectful. Respect gets you out of so many situations. I can't tell you how many tickets. I never have to ID myself as an ex-cop, because I'm respectful with an officer when he walks up. I don't argue with him. I even got a ticket once. I'll go into this. Going through a school zone. I missed the sign completely. I was doing 47. Ooh, that's a big ticket. That's a big ticket. Okay? The officer pulled me over. I pulled over real quick when I saw him. He was on it, had his little radar gun standing behind a tree. He just pointed at me and said, pull over, and pulled over. And I told him, I said, officer, I know what I did. I screwed up. And he goes, boy, did you? So he says, all right, license registration, give it to him. He walks back. I said, well, all right, you really screwed up. Appreciate you being honest. He said, what are you doing? I mean, what's the rush? And I told him I was in a hurry to get to the hospital. My wife was having surgery, and it was a fact. And he's kind of like, I'm still being very respectful, but not using it as an excuse. I said, I just blew it. I honestly did not see that sign. I blew right through it. I got my mind elsewhere. And he kind of like goes, oh, crap. And I already started the ticket. He said, look, I'm going to make it for 27 and a 25. Or, excuse me, it was 2 miles over, 17 and a 15. Yeah, 17 and a 15. That way you only have to go to the class. No fine, no nothing. He said, I already got it started, so I got to give you a ticket. That cop actually genuinely felt a little guilty about writing me a ticket. Why? Because I was being respectful and I took responsibility for my behavior. I screwed up. And usually when I get pulled over, it's because I screwed up. Speeding a little bit too fast. That red light turned red before I thought. You know, it just happens. But take responsibility, be respectful, and listen to what they say. But do your job. Get all the facts. Get everything down that you need in order to ensure that you've got everything you need and holding the officer accountable. Okay. Number 10, once you're out of the area, you need to do a debrief. Everybody know what a debrief is? Go ahead.
Debriefing is the situation report as is accounted by the different individuals there. You all make one report and you all get together on what that report is.
Bingo. To discuss also things that you might have done better. You also want to focus on what was done well. These become learning sessions as well as coordinating yourselves with each other. But they become learning. And if you screwed up, deal with it. Okay, you know, Joe, you kind of walked over here after I told you not to do that. I told everybody to freeze. You can't do that. Here's why. And so you use that as a learning process. That make sense? Okay? And then you want to pat people on the back. Folks, what you're doing is great work. I think it's focusing on a very severe problem that this country has, especially the state of Arizona. And since you're going to be out there, I know Louis and the rest of you have been doing this a while, and that's a good thing. Now start using these tools that we're giving you, and you'll become much more effective, and hopefully we can get this sickness dealt with. Any other questions? Okay, that's the end of the class.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. You have a clear copy. I will give you this one.
How you doing, brother?
That's all I got. Anybody need one?
Yeah.
There you go. I made just enough. I didn't think we'd have this many.
I got a question.
Sorry.
Okay.
Oh, he went into a place. He came back and he went into a place. I don't know if he's still here. Scott. He needs to finish that process. He needs to talk with not about the town.
Understand one thing about the Border Patrol. Border Patrol does not deal with criminal activity except for dealing with illegal aliens when they're dealing with illegals. When it comes to anything criminal, they are hands-off, okay? Unless it violates their protocols, which deals with border intrusions. Okay, so when you stop and talk to Border Patrol about something like the skull, etc., yeah, they might find it interesting and they might even come over and look at it, but the bottom line is they will not do the jurisprudence that's involved behind that. Okay, that is for law enforcement.
So they're not touching it. That wasn't neglecting anything.
No, they were doing their job.
Okay.
Okay.
We was all there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Louis, not to change the subject, but could I interview? I already talked to Danny.
Yeah, I don't want no names, but those
Right.
two ones you want to
I
interview.
just
Yes.
need
Yeah.
information.
Yeah, we'll get those. There are people that are kind of joining late. Can you just give a brief bio of who you are and what you came here to do real
Yeah.
quick, and how and what you see that's taking place down here?
Yeah. Okay, that's a loaded one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Ron Thompson. Retired law enforcement at 30 plus years, working law enforcement both on the streets, behind the bars. Last 9 years since my retirement, I've been working with border groups. Born and raised in southern Arizona. Spent a few years in Texas as a deputy sheriff, Wichita Falls, Texas, where we had some illegal activity going on up there. So basically in my 69 plus years of existence, I've been dealing with the illegal alien trafficking situation. Primarily what I see and what we're doing here is to try and give you all some tools to effectively process what you're finding out there. I mean, you guys are going to go out and do your thing. That's just who you are. And we acknowledge that, we admire that. Someone who's taken the time and spending hours out in the heat, I don't know how you do it. But anyway, so we are here to assist you in having the tools necessary to be more effective and working better with law enforcement when you do come upon issues of criminal activity. How's that?
Okay, the way we've been operating here down there, and it's still learning because this is new for us and we're all learning. But do you think we've had any effect right now, just with all the things we've been doing the past 2 weeks?
I think you've had an effect, positive effect, on bringing this to the attention of the public. America, as a rule, are generally ignorant of the severity of the Mexican cartels and their influence and actions here in this country, especially where child trafficking is concerned. We know that illegal drugs are very critical. They're the #1 criminal activity by the cartels, with child trafficking either #2 and 3, depending on the report you're reading. And this will be a big problem, is a big problem, and needs to be dealt with on all levels. Unfortunately, we had Pima County Board of Supervisors, or I guess it was the council, the city government, disprove or refuse to accept a federal grant to deal with this cartel issue of child trafficking, etc. They finally, because of all the hue and cry by law enforcement in general and the public, they finally accepted the federal grant. It was, I think, Project Stone Garden. And it was all political garbage that was going on over that issue. So you've got to be making people aware, and you're doing a pretty good job of that. Now we just need to get you to be more effective, and so that what you're doing, that there's less criticism by the so-called powers that be, by the so-called experts. You aren't experts. You probably will never be experts, but we can help you to become